Randy Yarbrough with you. My guest today, George Gordon with George Gordon School of Law. Question or comment? 970-689-8255 is the number. You can reach George on the web at georgegordon.org. georgegordon.org. Telephone is 417-273-4967. 417-273-4967. You can write to them at P.O. Box 297, P.O. Box 297, Isabella, Missouri. Federal Occupation Zone 65676. We're talking about religious free exercise, and whether you realize it or not, everyone out there is actively participating in their religious free exercise, aren't they, George?
They are. Everybody is doing what they want to do. It may not be good for them, but they're doing what they want to do, and occasionally the government steps in and says, no, you can't do that. Now, many people are not doing what they want to do because they're fearful and timid. So they may go down and register for the draft, or they may go down and get their vaccinations, or they may send their children to public school. They really don't want to, but they're afraid not to because they don't know that they have these rights and that these rights are in reality religious.
Well, but the rights, too, it's also the rights of them to be timid and not stand up.
You can, no doubt about it. About 88% of Americans practice vaccination. I don't know if 88% of the people of America really believe in vaccination, but that's about how many who practice it. About 12% of us do not practice vaccination. I'm one of those. And I don't want my children shot up with snake venom and monkeypox. And so this issue has been litigated. And one time my daughter was in the Ludi school, and my wife had taken her over, and she'd enrolled her, and some time went by, and I got a call from the school, and the school nurse said, your daughter is going to be expelled at the end of the day, and she can't come back until her shot record is brought up to date. I mean, she was a little snippy with me. And I said, well, I thought my wife had taken care of that. Let me come over, and I'll talk to you. Since I was here by myself and the wife wasn't here and the girl was in school, I jumped in the pickup and I drove the 5 miles to the school, and I went into the office and I told them who I was, and the nurse came in. And so I said, now, my wife, I thought, came over here and took care of that. In this state, we have an exemption. We have a religious free exercise exemption. And we filed that exemption. And I think it should be in her file. Would you please check? And then if it isn't in there, would you get me the exemption form, and I will fill it out. And the school nurse never batted an eyeball. She went right over to the file cabinet, pulled the file out, brought it over, thumbed through it, and said, oh, Mr. Gordon, I am so sorry. Here it is right here. Signed by your wife. Now, that's no big deal for me, but I wonder just how many people here in the Ludi school want their children vaccinated or would like to avoid the vaccination, and they can't because they don't know how, or they're fearful and timid. You see, the school nurse knows that there's an exemption, but they never tell you that.
Right.
You have to know it, and you have to walk in and demand the exemption form. Go get me one and bring it here, and I will fill it out. Oh, yeah, right. Here you go, right here. Otherwise, fill out this shot record over here and get your kid shot up, and if you don't, we're going to kick them out of school. And then if they're kicked out of school, they'll be truant. And then you won't be providing for your children. And that's not abuse, but it's neglect.
And then here comes social lady.
God, here comes social lady. You got that right. Now, there's another one over here on home school. I homeschooled my children. We did both. We like to put our children in public school so that they have a little experience as to what the real world is like. But basically, we educated our children here at home. And then when we taught them how to read and write, then we'd send them to school, and then they would excel. And my daughter, the one I'm telling you about now, they examined her after she completed the 6th grade. She went to school over there in the 5th and 6th grade. And at the end of the 6th grade, she tested at 12.7 grade. That means that she didn't have to go back to school anymore. She was already ahead of the graduating senior class when she'd completed the 6th grade.
She tested out.
At 12.7.
Yes, well...
Not quite college material yet, but certainly way past high school. Now, you know, our founding fathers never went to public school.
No, they didn't.
They didn't have any public schools to go to. And I want to point out, is there anybody out there who can write as well as Thomas Jefferson, the guy that wrote the Declaration of Independence?
Very few.
And Thomas Jefferson never went to public school. How did he learn how to write? Who taught him penmanship? I went to public school, and I learned how to write in public school, and nobody can read anything I write. And they all tell me that your penmanship really sucks, Gordon. We have to have you type that out so we can read it.
Can you read it?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've got my own special code, Randy. I can read my own writing.
See, that's what's really bad is when you can't read your own writing.
Yeah, no, I agree. How about the draft? How many of you people out there really want to sign up for the military, or you want your children to sign up for the Army? Did you know that nobody has ever been drafted into the Army or the military in the United States of America in 225 years? Not one case of anyone being drafted.
Volunteered. We'll talk about that right after this break. Question, comment? No one's ever been drafted.
Never.
Well, Congress passed the laws.
But everybody volunteers. Here's the way that works.
Yeah.
In Title 8 of the U.S. Code, the standards for the military conscription are laid out by Congress. So what happens is when you join the Army, you go down to the recruiter and you say, I want to join. He gets out a contract and he passes it over. He says, sign right there, son. And so you sign right there. And then he puts you through a little ceremony over here and he says, here, take a step forward, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. And that's what makes you a soldier. When you take a step forward, raise your right hand, and swear an oath of allegiance to the United States, that makes you a soldier. All right. What would happen if you didn't take that oath? What would happen if you got a letter, and the letter said, greetings, you've been inducted into the United States Army? And that letter is a subpoena. And the subpoena requires that you appear at the Army Induction Center. So when you apply, or when you appear, they will put you in a room with a bunch of other guys, line you up in 2 rows, and then they will say, take a step forward, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. And when you do that, you become a soldier, and they'll take you into another room, and then they will give you the contract and say, here, sign all these papers. And then when you finish signing those papers, you have now volunteered to join the Army.
Yes.
What would happen if they gave you the subpoena, and you followed the subpoena's directions, and you appeared at the Army Induction Center, and then when you get there, they tell you, line up, take a step forward, you take a step back, they say, raise your right hand, you take a step to the left, and you say, hold it, hold it, hold it. If I do this, will I be waiving any of my civil or constitutional rights? And guess what? They will escort you from the room.
Yes, before any of the other guys in there figure out something went on.
That's correct. Then they will work on you, and they will threaten you, and then tell you that we're going to put you in prison. We're going to prosecute you, and we're going to take you out in the alley and beat you up. But when they get all through, and it's about 15 minutes to 5, they'll give you a one-way bus ticket back home. Bottom line. Nobody's ever been drafted in the United States. The 13th Amendment prohibits it. But many people have been cunningly coerced into waiving their rights due to their ignorance.
Well, 13th Amendment says no involuntary servitude, doesn't say a word about voluntary servitude.
That's it. Everybody serves, and they go into servitude, but they go into servitude voluntarily. So the conscientious objector status is obtained not by refusing to sign up for the draft. That's a requirement, just like we have a jury duty requirement. And when you receive your notice for jury duty, you must appear. You don't have to serve on the jury. When you receive your draft notice, that's the equivalent of a subpoena. You have to appear, but you don't have to serve.